Hello and welcome to Horror Cult Trash Over, the show that discusses all the masterpieces and trash to pieces of genre cinema. My name's Chris.
And I'm Gary.
And this week we are doing part 2 of Musical Month.
We should start singing the intro, really.
I don't think so. It's more your forte.
You got a better voice than me.
Yeah, that's true, but I don't... But I try not to sing in public. But yes, it's week 2 of Musicals Month, and if you tuned in last week, you would know that each week we're taking one facet of Horror Cult Trash Over and discussing a musical based around that. So this week is Cult, and I chose True Stories from 1986.
Before we say any more,
before we get into that,
stacked week to talk about.
Yeah, in What's New with Chris and Gary, it's a lot, and it's all been really fucking good.
It has. I mean, it's a two best films kind of situation. I don't know what order you're going in, but for me, the first one is Kinds of Kindness.
Yes, I completely agree.
As you'll know, if you've heard recent episodes, we've been going through Yorgos Lanthimos' filmography, and his latest film is yet another 5-star banger. I don't think I know another modern filmmaker who has as many 5-star films under his belt as Yorgos Lanthimos. This is an anthology film, and like we were saying about The Beast previously and Love Lies Bleeding, it's Lynchian, but it's also signature Lanthimos, as we've now learned this is what he does. But this is more of the tone of Dogtooth and Killing of a Sacred Deer. It's relentless. It's hilarious, intense. It's a wild ride.
It's a lengthy one, and it's good. It's very, very good. It's very interesting, rather abstract at times. I love the performances in the film. I think everyone is on top form. I don't want to give too much away necessarily, just in terms of content, because there's surprises around every corner, and I really appreciated that. It's just something really almost wacky at times as well. Yet it's quite strong. The sex and the violence and the all of that business that everybody loves so much, which is what Horror Cult Trash is based on. But yeah, highly recommend. Love it.
Speaking of sex and violence,
absolutely,
you should have stayed at the party, MaXXXine. Our second best of the week is MaXXXine.
Is that your Drag Race?
Yes.
Okay. What was her name? The British one.
It was something to do with Spice Girls, weren't it?
Was it? Oh, so many drag queens.
I lose track.
I've gone through. I apologise.
That was one of those seasons that went on for a few years.
That was a lot. Oh, that was the long season.
I think it was. Yeah.
It was 14. Oh,
wasn't Victoria Scone?
No, Victoria Scone.
Victoria Scone was
UK.
From UK.
Yeah. No. This. So, oh my lord!
I'm frantically googling.
This is embarrassing.
We have always provided
my God, she did
with
the Freddie Mercury
nothing but professionalism on this podcast. Lady Camden.
Lady Camden, of course.
Yes. But Lady Camden's not our second best of the week.
No,
MaXXXine is, and Ty West has done it again. It's one of the best horror trilogies of all time. It's my favourite entry in the 3, and I can say that because I've seen it twice now, and it's just phenomenal. It really is. Like, this is exactly what it'd look like if me and Chris made a film. So use that to judge if you want to give us the funding for it.
Just it's so much fun. It's silly. It's out there.
Cunty.
It is, and it kind of ticks so many boxes for me and for us. It's influenced by all the films that we love, De Palma, Ken Russell, all that stuff. What was it? almost like Scream 3 as
Yeah.
well, but
Directed
like
by Brian De Palma.
yeah, like a really cunty version of Scream
Yeah.
3. Yeah, I love it, love it. My favorite in the trilogy as well.
Yeah. We love to see bad bitches thriving. And with that, honourable mentions, Red Peony Gambler. We watched the first 3 films of those. Very much bad bitches thriving.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic to see a female character in the late 60s be strong. I mean, not perfect, okay, but the representation is great.
Yeah.
And it leads on to films such as Lady Snowblood.
Mm-hmm.
But the films themselves are very exciting, very interesting. I love the characters. Yeah, highly recommend those 3, and we'll be continuing through the series. There's 8 in total, isn't there?
Yes.
But the first 3 of those, absolutely fantastic. Red Peony.
Yeah,
Gambler.
more strong women. The Devil's Honey. Hey, she took control of that situation. She was in charge.
I suppose. Lucia Fulci's take on an erotic thriller.
Yes.
Oh.
The sex is given the same treatment as his gore in his horror films. It is excess. It has a scene involving a saxophone and a vagina that you will never forget. I think about it every day.
Very detailed. Very detailed. But cunty because of it.
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively too.
Yeah. More bad bitches thriving. Mothra.
Yes. Finally got around to watching Mothra.
I fucking love kaiju films, and we watched some absolute bangers. So Mothra, The Return of Godzilla was fine, but Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah was Godzilla's take on Terminator.
It was.
And Godzilla versus Biollante. Biollante is an icon, a gay icon who should be discussed more.
Yeah.
A flower kaiju resurrected with the guy who created her. It's his dead daughter's spirit resurrected through a flower kaiju. I mean, what more do you need to know?
I think Godzilla is at its best. The films can be quite repetitive, particularly the Showa era Godzilla films. There's a definite formula to it, but I think it's at its best when it's saying something.
Yeah.
And yes, okay, we've heard we're destroying the world slowly over time. We've heard that narrative a lot, but it works in this context. It really works, and it's up there with the best. Like, genuinely, Godzilla versus Biollante specifically, but also Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, up there with some of the best Godzilla films. Like, really just thoroughly entertaining.
Yeah. And finally, for honourable mentions, not finally. We'll mention this and then we'll talk about another one, which almost could have been a part of the best of the week if it wasn't for MaXXXine. But another honourable mention is In a Violent Nature.
Yeah, we saw that as a kind of preview, Scream and Scene this week. It's exactly what you expect. There's violent nature.
You say that it does what you expect whilst taking a new direction. Like, the film is told from the killer's perspective.
Okay.
Now, obviously, from the 80s, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Pinhead, Michael Myers, they all became the ones you wanted to see in horror films. You know, Freddy Krueger was doing fucking kids' TV shows, doing interviews, for fuck's sake. You know, this is who you go to these slasher films for. And they've created a new villain here, and we see the entire film from his perspective. You know, we see little snippets of the characters to get the idea of what they are, but this guy just wandering around the woods, creating bloodbath.
It's like the Friday the 13th game put to film.
Yeah.
Which is good. It's a very good film, and it is very violent. And for me, that's what sticks out the most. That's what I'll remember. I won't remember all the time spent watching him slowly walk through grass. It's the kills that I'll remember. So, yeah, it's kind of like a Mortal Kombat sort of thing, where it's all good, but you're going to remember the fatalities at the end.
And, final honourable mention, The Bear Season 3.
Ah, yes, of course.
Yet another phenomenal season of this show. It never loses. It never fails. It's so stressful, and Jamie Lee Curtis better be getting that Emmy.
Yeah.
Yet again, she's incredible in it, and everyone's incredible. It's such a great cast, and yeah, just fantastic.
Yeah, I personally, it's up there. It's my second favorite of the season so far, and I love the energy that the show has, and I love that some episodes will be really deep and meaningful, and then other episodes will just be them shouting at each other and swearing, and I love that. I do a couple of characters got on my nose a little bit, but I feel like that was the point. But yeah, again, Jamie Lee Curtis was phenomenal.
But the Bear, a show that likes to include David Byrne every now and then on the soundtrack. Speaking of, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of, True Stories, 1986. Talking head. Spoiler alert. Not that there's anything you can spoil in this film,
Not
but
really.
There is a spoiler alert in effect.
Yeah.
I will say Talking Heads are one of my favourite bands.
Mm-hmm.
Talking Heads, your favourite band?
My actual favourite band, yes. Number one for many, many years now. I adore their music.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And this film is something special. It's really random. It's so weird. It's camp. It's just, there's not much else like it. It made if you like this, please enjoy section at the end of the episode. Made it a little difficult because there's not really anything else like this. It's also really wholesome and uplifting, and it's just something. Yeah, it's something special.
It feels like you're delving into David Byrne's head.
Yeah,
and David Byrne being a very quirky kind of guy. Being in his music, it's very sort of out there and it doesn't always make sense, but then also there are parts of it that really make sense, and some of it stops making sense. But yeah, but I feel like this film is a delve into his mind, and it goes a little here, there, and everywhere, and it works.
I mean, he described it as 60 minutes on acid.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't know about the other half an hour of the film, but he, yeah. He also used the same phrase to describe Stop Making Sense, despite being a concept film with no narrative. But
that's still a very quirky sort of stage show.
It is. Stop Making Sense is the greatest concept film ever made.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's actually number one on Letterboxd's top documentaries. Too. It's just, again, much like this, there's nothing else like Stop Making Sense.
No.
And it's one of those films where you can see Jonathan Demme's style really shine through, and it doesn't always happen when you have an established director making a concert film, but in this case, it really does.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to say about that? Do you have anything else to say about Stop Making Sense? I think it's a good time to talk about it.
We might have, we might have an episode dedicated to Stop Making Sense.
I don't know if we could. I don't know how we would do that.
I don't think we could do it justice, to be fair,
no.
on a podcast.
No, you have to see it to believe it.
That's true.
But if you don't want to say anything about Stop Making Sense, then I will tell us what was written and directed by David Byrne. Because, of course, if you don't know already, David Byrne, lead singer of Talking Heads. And he directed some of the music videos for Talking Heads, a lot of them actually. Red Hot and Blue, Between the Teeth, The House of Life, and April 16, 1989. So he works on a fair bit of other stuff.
Yeah.
As well.
This is the only film that he directed, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, the other films that I just mentioned.
They're not films.
April 16, 1989, I believe, is a short film, but Between the Teeth and Red Hot and Blue.
A feature-length films?
Yeah.
Am I misremembering here?
No. I mean, well, yeah.
Yeah. You can't correct me and then tell me that, so they're feature-length films?
Yeah, he directed them.
71 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's live. It's music concert films.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know what it was about.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
But yeah,
And music compilations. But yeah. So yeah, David Byrne, the main writer and lead singer of Talking Heads, he wrote pretty much all the music for this film,
yeah.
didn't he? This is the only feature film that he directed.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, like you said, many music videos and sort of concert films that he would have directed too.
Yeah, and it's co-written.
So we can both be right and
we'll
both be wrong
right.
at the same time.
It's co-written by Stephen Tobolowsky, who did the Philadelphia Experiment. Well, I say he did the Philadelphia Experiment. He was in the Philadelphia Experiment. He wrote Two Idiots in Hollywood. And I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, he just did a lot of acting.
Yeah, so much more famous as a actor than he was a writer or director. I'm assuming it actually never really figured out the story of why David Byrne went to him, what their connection was at that point for him to go and ask him. Two Idiots in Hollywood came after True Stories.
Yeah.
So probably most famous for Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Where he plays the dude, the really annoying dude, Ned Ryerson, who gets punched eventually because he's so annoying. But yeah,
Spoiler.
just kind of technically
The last person on earth not to see Groundhog Day.
Yeah. But very much a character actor, very much bit parts. He was in Memento, Thelma and Louise, Freaky Friday, the Jamie Lee Curtis version, Basic Instinct, Spaceballs. He, to me, is that guy that you know his face, and you're like, where do I know him from? And then you realise you know him from every single film.
Yeah.
So many films. Very distinct face. And yeah, David Byrne asked him to help write the film to make a sort of finished product.
Yeah, and it's also co-written by Beth Henley. And she wrote Nobody's Fool, Crimes of the Heart, Trying Times, A Family Tree, Miss Firecracker, and It Must Be Love.
Yeah, Crimes of the Heart is top on my watch list. I need it. I own the vinyl, but I haven't watched the film yet. Desperate to see that film, but not the most prolific writer. So essentially what David Byrne did was I think he'd written the music and he wanted to make it into a film.
Yeah.
After their previous album, Little Creatures. They didn't tour that album.
No.
Much to the annoyance of the rest of Talking Heads, who I do think at this point really started to hate David Byrne.
Yeah.
And they would eventually break up in 1991 after one more album in 88. But he'd put together these pictures that he'd drawn, and he wanted the two other writers, Stephen and Beth, to make a film essentially out of this and create these characters. Beth used her knowledge of tabloid newspapers to create these stories, and David as well, the first time basis. But they kind of wanted to make a film about Americana, about America.
Yeah, so this is kind of similar to when we spoke previously about Spice World and Glitter, and S Club C and Double, except this is good. Film, one of my favorite films of all time. Album, one of my favorite albums of all time. It's, for me, and I shouldn't be saying this to a Talking Heads fan, but Remain in Light, Little Creatures, and True Stories, the three are interchangeable for me. I think all three are perfect albums from start to finish. So it's refreshing to be talking about one of these type of films that have been released in conjunction with an album, where it's actually fucking good, because we haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
I don't think Rock and Roll High School counts. I don't think that's to promote an album.
But I don't. This film wasn't to promote the True Stories.
No, but it's released at the same time.
Yeah, so I tend to find Jerry Harrison and David Byrne are the ones who are most vocal about these things, and they kind of have differing stories. Whereas David Byrne said, "Oh, it wasn't actually meant to be a Talking Heads album, and we weren't going to do it, and I regret doing it because I feel like the songs work better within the film," and I partially agree with that as well. I think the songs are fantastic, but they don't always work as Talking Heads songs. But Jerry Harrison said, "No, we were always going to be involved." He's just sort of going back on it now,
No.
sort of thing. They get really bitchy at times as well.
Mhm.
It's highly entertaining, but when you're desperate for them to get back together and tour, it's not. It's not that great.
Yeah, I mean, my side of research
Mm.
tells me that most of the vocal work done by the film's stars, including that of singer Roebuck Pups Staples, wasn't released. Instead, Talking Heads recorded an album featuring their versions of the songs.
Uh-huh.
Nearly every song from the film was released on a soundtrack album performed by the film actors, and nearly all of the background music as well, including John Goodman's People Like Us.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel like potentially they were in some way contractually obligated
Yeah.
to release it as a Talking Heads album
Mm-hmm.
with David Byrne singing and the rest of the band performing. On the vinyl that we've got for the Talking Heads version of True Stories, David Byrne has a little note that says, "This is not the movie soundtrack.
Yeah.
That can be purchased separately. This is the Talking Heads version."
He does a great version of Wild Wild Life solo and during his solo tour with St. Vincent.
Yeah.
It's a really good performance of that on YouTube, which I
Mhm.
recommend checking out. Talking Heads were actually unable to perform at Live Aid due to David Byrne's commitment to this film.
Oh wow.
So and you know what? It could have been a great Live Aid performance, but at least we've got True Stories. Budget, I can't tell you unless you know.
No, no.
But it did make $2.5 million worldwide.
It's definitely a cult film.
Yeah.
I've definitely put it in the cult camp because I don't think it made money.
No.
Because David Byrne was not allowed to make another film afterwards.
No.
And yeah, it divided people at the time. Some thought it was charming, others thought it was maybe a little condescending. And obviously we'll discuss that further throughout. Just going back onto the writing as well. She never got a writing credit, but Joan Tewksbury, who was probably most famous for working with Robert Altman on films like Nashville, which is very much a similar film in many respects. David Byrne spoke to Joan Tewksbury about how he could make this film, and she helped out a lot with the writing, casting ideas, and location. So really, it was her idea to have it set and filmed in Texas, which is a huge part of the film. It's a in some ways a love letter to Texas in the way that it's also a love letter to rural America and America in general to a certain degree. And obviously again we'll get into that.
Should we talk about who's in it?
Yes, in a section we like to call "Hey, I Know You and I Didn't Know You Could Sing."
Wow, that doesn't bode well for who I got up first. David Byrne.
Well, we did know he could sing.
Is the narrator and the lip syncer with a moustache during the Wild Wild Life sequence. And he has been in other stuff that isn't live music. He was in This Must Be the Place, The Simpsons, Life and Beth, Lulu on the Bridge, Checking Out, Dead End Kids, Trying Times, and more. And he modelled this character of the narrator after folksy radio personality Paul Harvey, and at one point considered offering Harvey the role as well. He offered the role of Louis Finn to TV weatherman Lewis Finn to TV weatherman Willard Scott, who turned it down.
Okay.
I'm glad David Byrne took this role.
Yes. It's again, like I said, it feels like you're taking a little step into his head, into his thought process. So him being the narrator is perfect, and it works perfectly. And yeah, absolutely.
John Goodman, who we discussed earlier this year on a podcast in Matinee, plays Lewis Finn. He was in 10 Cloverfield Lane, Barton Fink, Argo, Flight, Kong Skull Island, Atomic Blonde, The Big Lebowski, Monsters Inc., The Flintstones, and more. We told you how much we loved John Goodman, the actor, during Matinee episode. Now we'll tell you how much we love John Goodman, the singer.
Yeah, who knew he could sing?
He's just got such a presence in everything he's in. He's just such a good actor. And in this film specifically, he has such a presence about him that is just so likable and adds to why this film is so wholesome.
Yeah, there's a likability, there's a warmth to him as a guy, actually. Like as an actor, as a person. You kind of feel you almost it's that John Candy as well, and I don't think it's just because they're guys on a larger frame. They come across as just nice guys, like real down to earth fellas.
Forever standing chubby heroes in Hollywood.
Yeah,
that's clearly what we're going for here.
Well, I mean, Jack Black. Does it work for Jack Black? Halfway there.
Orange County and School of Rock are good.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think John Goodman would have starred in Shallow House, so maybe.
No, but he did do The Hangover Part 3, so we'll have a down.
There we go.
But he just, even as like a performer, like during the musical scenes, and I could talk to him blue in the face about the Wild Wild Life scene. It's just an electric performance. It's just fantastic. Spalding Gray plays Earl Culver. He was in Swimming to Cambodia, The Killing Fields, Beaches, Kate and Leopold. How High, Julie Johnson, Coming Soon, Bliss, Glory Days, Diabolique, the 1996 version, and more.
I feel like in America he's like a bigger name because we watched the making of documentary, and everyone kind of spoke as if Spalding Gray was like a really big actor. Like, being in it was a big deal. Yeah, but I didn't really recognize him. I haven't seen anything else that he was in.
Who is a star is Annie McEnroe, who plays Kay Culver, star of fucking Howling 2, Your Sister's a Werewolf, or Siba Werewolf Bitch, or whatever else you want to call it. What a film. And it's a crime that we haven't done it for the podcast yet.
She is the star of as well. She's not even just in. She is the star of. Yeah. Sturber Werewolf Bitch.
It's a Sturber Werewolf Bitch. That's
Sturber.
She's also in Beetlejuice, Warlords of the 21st Century, The Hebrew Hammer, The Survivors, American Psycho, Manhunter, Snake Eyes, and more.
Yeah, the Abel Ferrara Madonna film.
Not quite. The Brian De Palma.
Oh.
The Brian De Palma Nicolas Cage film.
No, she's also in Dangerous Game.
Both. She's in both Snake Eyes. Yeah. Wow, good for her.
She's in both. Yeah.
That's a very specific career choice.
Yeah. Oh, a cameo appearance in Dangerous Game. No wonder I didn't remember.
Oh shit! So maybe she's not in the Brian De Palma.
Maybe.
I think I got it mixed up.
It's easily done with those two films.
Nicolas Cage is the word on everyone's lips currently because of Long Legs. Tune in next week to find out what we think of that. Swoosie Kurtz plays Miss Rollins, and she was in Cruel Intentions, Reality Bites, Bubble Boy, Liar Liar, The Rules of Attraction, Slapshot, Against All Odds, Dangerous Liaisons, the Overboard remake, An Englishman in New York, and more.
Yeah, famous for her role in the TV series Sisters as well, which I think was big at the time, I think. But yeah, love her. Great character actress. Another one who she kind of turns up in loads of stuff, and you're like, oh, I recognize her from somewhere, and you realize, oh, loads of films. Yeah, love Swoosie Kurtz. Love. I don't know how to say her name, but I love her.
Yeah.
Performances.
Is there anyone else you want to mention?
Not really. I don't think. A lot of the cast, like John Ingle was in Heathers and Batman and Robin and RoboCop 2, but just sort of smaller actors, if I'm being like the character actors, supporting roles.
Okay, well in that case, let's talk about our feature presentation.
this place is completely normal. Anyway.
Well, if this is being nuts, then I don't ever want to be sane.
Yes, so we open with, would you call it a title card if it's not the title?
It's a title card.
Yeah.
Same
It
thing.
says True Stories, a film about a bunch of people in Texas. And that's literally what it is.
Yeah.
So the film, I'll give you a little overview. The film is presented as a series of vignettes centered around David Byrne as an unnamed cowboy hat wearing stranger who visits the fictional Texas town of Virgil, where he observes the citizens as they prepare for the celebration of specialness to mark the 150th anniversary of Texas's independence. The event is being sponsored by the Varicorp Corporation, a local computer manufacturing plant. And at one point during the film, the narrator tells us that many of Virgil's festivities are sponsored by Varicorp. It's a major public relations effort. They're calling it a celebration of specialness, but this place is completely normal.
Yeah.
Which I love. And it's, I don't think David Byrne is telling us that Virgil, Texas isn't special, but there is a form of special in the mundane, in the normal, in the everyday.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I love that message from the film. I love that it's saying that these people may seem very normal and very plain and they're everyday, but there's something special to them. There's a little spark to them. Like there's a little spark to everyone.
Yeah.
And I love that. And it's the part of the film where I think some people thought was maybe a little condescending. As David Byrne is somebody who is quirky, who is out there, who is a showman. You watch something like Stop Making Sense and he grabs your attention.
Yeah.
His stage presence is there, and he is, in my opinion, a genius when it comes to music.
Yeah.
It, Stop Making Sense, the staging was genius, and I feel like he had a big hand in all of that. So he's a very smart guy, a very successful guy.
Yeah.
Telling us that we should find joy in the everyday, in the mundane, and I don't feel that it's condescending in that sense.
I don't. I just think the world wasn't ready for a film so positive.
Absolutely.
I think it's still, like, in 2024, it's still a shock to have a film that is just positive. Like, there's nothing really goes wrong in this film.
No.
I mean, there's a questionable relationship between a husband and wife, and a character's unlucky in love, but these are like minor things in comparison to how overwhelmingly uplifting this film is.
Yeah, and I think it's maybe a interesting take on Middle America.
Yeah.
So you take something like I think it was around the similar time, maybe the same year, Blue Velvet.
Yeah. Which
told us to look at the dark underbelly of Middle America, of the suburban America. This is telling us to look at the joy within rural America.
Yeah, which it really makes for a great double bill to look at the two sides of things.
So we're introduced to, well, we're not really introduced because we never know her name, but we're met by a girl wearing a blue dress as she's chirping like a bird, and she walks down a dirt road in the middle of nowhere. Potentially a road to nowhere.
Yeah.
Potentially a little reference there. Now, I wrote that down. She won't appear again until the very end of the film.
No.
The narrator, Byrne himself, as we've said, gives us a history of Texas with some old stock footage. He mentions a full history from the dinosaurs through the Wild West to the modern electronics companies. Cotton, cattle, oil, and now microcomputers. So we're at the Varicorp factory. We're in modern day after he's told us all the history.
Yeah.
And the workers are discussing love whilst working on the conveyor belt. One woman, known as the lying woman in the credits, absolute queen, tells her colleagues, "Oh, I know everything there is to know about love, honey. I've seen it all and done it all. I love money and men like that. Remember when I went out with Burt Reynolds? Shoot, he was gonna quit the movies and come live with me. I said, Burt, darling, I need all your money.
Burt Reynolds is a big name in the 80s.
Burt Reynolds was
Everyone
huge.
loved a bit of Burt Reynolds.
If he wasn't the object of affection on the Golden Girls, he was mentioned in True Stories, Sleepaway Camp. Everyone was talking about Burt Reynolds in the 80s for some reason.
Is it the lion woman who talks about her love for hairy men?
Yes.
And states that Jesus was a hairy man.
Yes. I absolutely love the Lion Woman. She's such a queen. As you can tell by her name, she's full of shit.
Yes.
Nothing she says is true.
It's like Tracy Beaker, really.
And I love it. And again, this is one taken directly from the tabloids.
Mm-hmm.
The headline, the woman who never speaks a word of truth.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love it. It's great. And that was me trying to do a southern accent.
Very good.
I did all right. I mean,
yeah.
I was.
You were like Blanche Devereaux.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, slightly.
It's like she was in the room with us.
A slight different state, but yeah.
I'm gonna get an exorcist in to get rid of the spirit. Yeah, I mean, this is also when we meet Ramon, who is a
Ramon,
who is a piano singer.
Mm-hmm.
He hears tones from people and tells another woman that he can read her tones like she's a radio, and gives a slight performance of Radiohead. And yes, the song that you can thank for the band getting their name.
Yes, because when they called something like "Not on a Friday,"
boring white
so,
guys. Oh,
yeah.
what?
Yeah, they were called something like "Not on a Friday," and the something like that, something to do with Friday.
Yeah,
and they were told, "Now you got to change it," and they changed it to Radiohead.
Yeah,
off the song. So he does. Spoiler alert: he does a full performance of it later.
Yeah,
but this song is stuck in his head.
Mm-hmm.
And he references it every time he's on screen. He references this song. I can read, the waves in your head. Ultimately, there are parts of the film that I can't explain.
Yeah.
And by David Byrne's own admission, there are parts that we don't need to explain.
Yeah.
And maybe that's okay. Maybe you don't have to find reason for everything. You don't have to find explanation for everything, which I understand is hard for me to stomach when I spend so much of my time on this podcast trying to read more into things.
These scenes are very much like Twin Peaks if, Laura Palmer didn't have such a rough time and got murdered.
Yeah, yeah.
It's there's so many points in this that remind me of Twin Peaks.
Yes, yeah. So we meet Lois Fine, played by John Goodman, who is also looking for love and also discussing love. He works at the same factory, and he says, "I love the women. Hey, there's more to life than this job. No offense, you understand. I'm no swinger, not Lois. I want to settle down and share." And that's all. And for the whole of the film, Lois is just looking for love. Yes. He's just looking for matrimony. He goes on a little date with Moonstone, and she tries to teach him the lotus position.
She does.
She's very what's the word? A nice way to put it, sort of hippie-ish.
She is, yeah. Just like in A Violent Nature, some unsuccessful yoga.
Yes. Yeah, and it's they're not a fit. They're not compatible.
He goes on another date with a woman with a load of kids. She asks him to name all of her kids, but he can't do it.
That evening, everyone who is anyone is at the club.
Yes.
The lying woman is lying again while she's there. She said, "When I was a nurse in Vietnam, I was stuck out in the middle of the jungle with a real Rambo. He had the hots for me. I mean, he was driving me crazy. Of course, it'd be difficult for anybody not to fall in love with you in that humidity. And then I saved his life about 50 times." I love her. She is, what is her name? Oh my God, the one from Edward Scissorhands. Kathy Bacon character. She's her, but just lying, just bullshitting the whole time. But everyone allows her to. Nobody corrects her. Nobody questions her. Nobody takes issue with anything she says, and she just pops up every so often and just tells a complete lie.
Yeah.
And it's so entertaining, and it's high camp. I love it.
Yeah.
Lois is there, and he's still on the lookout for love. He says, I'm still having trouble with the ladies, buddy, I tell ya. In fact, there are 500,000 more single guys than there are gals, and the competition is tough.
You know, you keep calling him Lois. I think his name's Lewis.
Do I keep saying Lois?
You do keep saying Lois, yeah.
Why do I keep saying Lois? Like it's Family Guy.
This
Lewis.
scene... Lewis, yeah.
Lewis.
This scene is... I can't explain it. It brings me so much joy. Like, it's just one of the most joyous things I've ever seen in my life. And if I'm ever miserable, put this music video on and it'll cheer me up. They all start performing Wild Wild Life. But it's like the members of Talking Heads are there with wigs. Chris Franz in a fancy cowboy outfit. David Byrne with his moustache, and just like all the locals of the town are just going up performing bits of the song, and just John Goodman's part is just phenomenal.
Yeah, I love Wild Wild Life. It was the most successful song from the album.
There's no surprise. I'd say it's my favourite Talking Heads song.
Yeah, it's definitely up there, and it's one of the songs that does really work as a Talking Heads song, because I don't think it was ever meant for any of the characters in the film.
Hence why it's a karaoke scene.
Yes. I also think it's maybe a little sly dig at lip syncing musicians on MTV and how so many seem interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting this one song, but we've got a dozen different singers, all looking completely different. I think maybe it's a little sly dig at MTV and the MTV generation.
Yeah, it feels like the performers in the background are doing Talking Heads impressions to the point that the whole time I was trying to work out if it was them.
It's true.
The guitarist looks a lot like Jerry Harrison. But yeah, this scene is just fantastic.
It's a joyous moment. Everyone's if it is a little dig at MTV, everyone's still having a really great time on stage.
Yeah.
And I love the song, the lyrics. I don't know, do they fit in with the film? No. Fur pajamas. It's a bit quirky.
Technically a Wild Wild Life. Although I suppose it's kind of the opposite to what they're doing in Virgil.
Maybe. We're then introduced to the lazy woman, played by Swoosie Kurtz. And she never gets out of bed. She's not sick. She's got enough money that she just doesn't have to get out of bed. She doesn't even turn the pages of her magazine. She has a robot to do that. And again, this is taken directly from the tabloids. The woman who never got out of bed. She has a butler that does everything for her.
Yeah, Mr. Tucker.
The TV is constantly on. It's never switched off. And she looks great for it, but she is always in bed. Yeah,
Miss Rollins, what a queen. One of her biggest issues of the day is the quantity of hot dogs you can get in a pack.
Yes. The narrator then gives us a very detailed analysis of malls, shopping malls.
Yes.
And their place in American culture. And he meets up with Lewis at the mall. And Lewis still has got one thing on his mind. Women.
Yeah.
And they're walking through, and essentially the narrator's telling us how great malls are because they make life so much easier. And everyone can get together and they can find bargains and they can get as much for their money as they can if they try a little, a little to search for the best bargains and everything. And it's very, very mundane.
Yeah.
Very not particularly interesting, but interesting in its delivery. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like ASMR. We then get song number 2 within the mall. It's Dream Operator, and it's sung by Kay Culver, played by Annie McEnroe. And she sings as a fashion show is taking place. Outfits include clothes made to look like brick walls, wedding cakes, real grass, and astroturf. One particularly large wedding arch headpiece sends one of the models crashing off the stage onto a table.
Yeah, this is as close to cunty as you're going to get in this film. Yeah, I love this performance. I'm undecided of which version I prefer. This is a very good cover.
This works.
She kind of sounds like Susan Sarandon in Rocky Horror.
Yes, yeah. I've seen comparisons to the way that Julie Cruz sings in Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Where it's very ethereal, almost could be dream pop.
Mm-hmm.
In its delivery, but everything around is, middle American mundane.
Yeah.
I love the extravagance of the costumes.
My highlight was the woman literally dressed as a wedding cake.
Yes.
What was your favourite one?
My favourite was, I think it was the wedding cake, or actually the giant headpiece, the one that sends her off the stage. But the idea is that it's to question what people could do without restrictions.
Yeah.
So we, as society, put restrictions on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we say, well, we can't wear that. It's too much.
Yeah.
We can't be this person. It's too much. So David Byrne was questioning, well, what if they didn't have those restrictions?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, what if, these small town Texans had no restrictions? How extravagant would they go?
Yeah.
How ridiculous could the costumes be? And in turn, how, silly and preposterous they might be, but also not impossible. These people could make these costumes. They do have a homemade look to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like the Drag Race catwalk, the runway.
Of course.
It's
if this was made now, these would be drag queens.
Absolutely. They're not avant-garde, and they were never meant to be, as it is meant to look like the town could have made them.
Mm-hmm.
And they in fact got members of the Texas, I can't remember where it was filmed, but the Texas town where they were, they actually got members of the school to help them make these costumes. There's loads of them. There's a huge amount of these costumes. These very sort of day-to-day people are wearing them.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. I love that juxtaposition, and I love the message. It's like, well, okay, where are these restrictions coming from? Yeah. Who's telling you that you can't dress as a wedding cake? If you want to dress as a wedding cake, dress as one.
Yeah.
Just make sure you don't topple over if it's too high.
Yeah.
Maybe there's physical restrictions, or there shouldn't be any societal restrictions to these things, and I love that. Lewis and the lying woman go on a date, and she says, Lewis, darling, listen, I'll tell you something if you promise not to tell another living soul. Now, I'd never tell this to anybody else, but I believe that part of my extra psychic ability is connected up with the fact that I was born with a tail, a little old bitty hairy thing about that long, had it surgically removed when I was just 5 years old.
No, I think he was on something here.
Maybe.
I think he should have stayed with her to see if that was true. That could have been the only truth that she told.
No,
she also wrote Billie Jean, apparently, and half of Elvis's songs.
Yes.
She says songs are easy.
Yeah. Lewis has he's written a song for Friday's celebrations, but he's a little nervous. And yes, unsurprisingly, the lying woman is quite the songwriter herself.
She is.
Having written Billie Jean and half of Elvis's
Kathy Hilton would love her.
She would. I don't think she ever had a tail. I just think she tells tall tales.
Yes.
The narrator has dinner with Kay Culver and her family. So her husband and her 2 children. Kay and her husband never speak directly with each other, and everyone just has to keep passing the food.
Yeah, this is a slight dark side that the film has. The very, very slight dark side. Where it's kind of normalized having this broken down relationship whilst in the family with kids, which is, like David Byrne keeps reminding us with his film, normal.
Yeah, and I think you could absolutely read it like that. But again, this comes from the tabloid.
Yeah.
There's a tabloid, the newspaper article was, we've been married for 31 years and we don't speak to each other
Mhm.
anymore, and we've never been happier.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
Uh-huh. I mean, poor David Byrne. Earl Culver, fucking hell, he took some shit.
yeah, he uses the food on the table to demonstrate business, science, and their relation to government. And he says at one point to his children, Linda, Larry, there's no concept of weekends anymore, and seems very happy in that.
Mm-hmm.
So he is he the town mayor or something? He's in office, isn't he?
Yeah.
With the town. So he's kind of seen as the head, the head of the town.
Yeah.
And obviously Kay is very much Jackie O, and we see that even more so later. There's a scene where they look exactly like Kennedy and Jackie Kennedy and such. But yeah, I think he's meant to represent the politics of the town, and he talks of science and how great this computer factory has been on the town, and it's really put Virgil on the map, and that's why we can celebrate and such. Whereas in the past it was cotton or it was cattle, and now it's microchips.
Mm-hmm.
Puzzling evidence is performed from a church preacher played by John Ingle, and before he sings, he preaches to the congregation about politics, Texas being punished for JFK's assassination, and general tin hat conspiracy theories. He says, do you run out of Kleenex, paper towels, and toilet paper at the same time? You know it's the truth. The lying woman, of course, has something to say too.
She does.
She's in the congregation and she says, it was love that killed John F. Kennedy. He should have never messed with me. Oh, no, I know nothing, Your Honor. They want me to speak on 60 Minutes. Mike Wallace wants my body. She also declares it's true as the preacher performs Puzzling Evidence. And Puzzling Evidence being a song that is about conspiracy theories.
Yeah, this segment in the film was inspired by the Church of the Subgenius, which is a parody religion to which David Byrne is a part of. It's his religion. In church law, Puzzling Evidence is the name of the assassin of the religion's fictional founder, J.R. Bob Dobbs.
Oh.
So, yeah. Church of the Subgenius. Maybe there's something I get behind.
Maybe.
A parody religion.
But with the lying woman declaring it's true, we of course now question the accuracy of what the preacher is preaching. What I love, and I know I keep going on about her, and maybe it's a spoiler for an award later, but I love how the lying woman, she wasn't meant to speak in this scene, but Joe Harvey Allen's performance and ad-libbing was so good that she was given more and more to do. Yeah. And for me, it's the highlight. I find it so funny. It's so hilarious. It's my sense of humor down to a T. Just this woman who lies profusely, and it's the most camp lies. Like, I had a tail. JFK was killed because he fell in love with me. You know, I love it. The narrator speaks to Earl Culver, Kay's husband, regarding Virgil real estate. Earl says, I'm going to give you a clear vista of the edge of the civilized world. You see, it's like a game of leapfrog. These houses, you know, they just keep extending the town out further and further every year. It's kind of weird for the first person that moves into a community like this. Yeah. And again, you know, he represents growth. Growth of the town. He's selling real estate. He's selling the land to grow and grow and grow. And I don't know if we see this as a positive thing, because he comes across a bit false. You know, he doesn't speak to his wife directly. You know, it's a facade. So is he selling a facade? Because obviously when we talk about America in this way, we talk about the American dream. We talk about how America is sold to the world as the place where you can thrive. You know, concrete jungle where dreams are made of. You know, as Jay-Z and Alicia Keys would say. Alicia Keys would say. But yeah, I find it fascinating, and he goes on to say, but you know, it's an imaginary landscape, a place to raise your kids. Of course, nowadays, not everyone's having kids, not with the end of the world coming up and all. I mean, would you? Which is, again, a little hint of something a little
Yeah.
darker.
Yeah, I think that's entirely what this character's here for.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And then we get a bunch of kids perform Hey Now.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully it's short. Because it's not my favourite song from the album, and it's also I don't get on well with
these
kids singing.
yeah.
I don't it grates on me.
They're all adults now. We can say it without sounding harsh.
Yeah.
They butchered the song.
They did. I don't like
There's
the sound
no
of kids
point
singing.
where we'd listen to this on the soundtrack.
We get a much better rendition of a song though when the lazy woman is flicking through the TV channels in bed and stops on the music video for Love for Sale, the official music video directed by David Byrne.
The commercials seen, most of the commercials seen before and during this musical number were genuine TV ads of the day, including Victor Kayam's famous Remington shaver ad with its slogan, "I like it so much I brought the company." According to David Byrne, many of the characters in this film were inspired by, as you've been telling us, actual supermarket tabloid stories.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's nice having the actual ads in there. It's a really nice addition.
Yeah, it gives it a sense of realism.
Yeah.
So as the music video is playing, and the music video plays like a commercial, like Gary said, particularly for chocolate. Chocolate is a big one that they're trying to sell. The band is covered in chocolate at one point. The band is made out of chocolate. Portina loses her head.
She does.
As like an Easter egg, but yeah, that kind of chocolate. And the lazy woman comments on the imagery throughout. I love this. I think this is so camp. She's like, "Oh baby, work that hair. That little boy's in a straitjacket. He must have done something bad." They've got that commercial attitude. Her mannerisms, Swoosie Kurtz's mannerisms during this, is so good.
Yeah, I do love her. She is a massive highlight. Just lying in bed all the time. She's relatable.
And I think having these sort of trained actors, very good actors like John Goodman and Swoosie Kurtz, elevates it.
Yeah,
and no one gives a bad performance, but some of it is relying on extras quite heavily, and potentially there could have been a bit awkwardness there, but it works. It works, and these performances are great. And the song and the music video is clearly about consumerism and sort of society's obsession with television. And Byrne sings of being raised in a house where the television was always on, and therefore growing up too fast because of that. Yeah. And obviously the lazy woman is constantly glued to her TV set. Yeah.
And this is also a reminder, you mentioned Tina Weymouth. It's, if you listen to this on the day of release, it's another fabulous Tina Tuesday.
Oh.
Go over to Chris Franz's Instagram, where every Tuesday he does a Tina Tuesday and posts a really cunty picture of Tina Weymouth.
Oh, nice. Good. Glad they're still in love.
Yes. She just hates David Byrne.
Yeah, I was going to say, as the two directors of the We Hate David Byrne club, it's nice to see they get along with each other. Next on TV is Lewis, and he's got something to advertise too.
He has.
Himself.
Yes.
He says, "Hello, I'm Lewis Fine, and I'm looking for matrimony with a capital M. I believe in the joys and contentment of matrimony. Now, my chances in this world that prints a new diet book every month may not be that good. I'm looking for someone who can accept me for what I am. I'm 6'3" tall and maintain a very consistent panda bear shape. I'm pleased with the way God made me. I wouldn't change a thing. I'm willing to share. Won't you please call this number 844-WIFE?"
Bless him. Tinder wasn't around back then.
Yeah.
Growler would have loved it.
I know. If he was gay, he would have found loads of partners.
He would have.
Maybe not from
He
natural.
would have ended up being someone's sugar daddy.
Yeah, potentially, but yeah, a very sweet, very. I like the delivery from John Goodman. He's the everyman. He's he's a little overweight. John Goodman does the everyman better than any man.
Yeah.
He's John Goodman for a reason. Uh, but yeah, I love this. It's so sweet, and the lazy woman watches, but she's not taking that much notice.
No,
is she? Lewis does get a date from this though, from his little video, with the cute woman at her very pastel house.
Her pink house, not
very
a euphemism.
Pink. No, pink. Yeah, very pastel, should I say? It doesn't go too well though, as he gives her a sneak preview of his song, and it's too sad for the cute woman who is just too cute to allow that kind of sadness in her life.
Yeah.
Poor Lewis ends up turning to a spiritual healer who gives him a drink that he needs to drink half of and throw the other half away to help him find love and perform well at the talent show.
Yeah, so this is Mr. Tucker. This is
Mr. Tucker.
Mrs. Rowland's assistant.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Man of many trades.
Yes. So played by Roebuck Pops Staples, father of Mavis Staples and a member of the Staples Singers.
Mm-hmm.
So he met David Byrne when he wanted to do a cover of Slippery People.
Yeah.
And David Byrne said yes and remembered him and thought that he'd be great for this film. And he has a song later on that he performs. But yeah, an established singer. I think sort of blues, folk blues singer. Mavis Staples I'm more familiar with, to be fair. So it's Friday, finally, and the celebration of specialness begins with a parade. The parade consists of men in small cars wearing fezzes.
Yes.
Which apparently is a regular thing.
They're real. That's a real thing.
Yeah. A large group of women in pink pushing babies in prams. Several people playing accordions. The Culver family giving JFK and Jackie Kennedy realness. And a high school marching band.
Yeah, so in the original script, the cute woman is overcome by cuteness of the babies in the parade during this sequence, and she dies. Later, after Lewis marries the lazy woman, during the reception in her bedroom, Lewis looks wistfully out the window. At that point, there's to be a cut to a graveyard exterior scene in which the cute woman's funeral was attended only by a few, including the narrator and Mr. Tucker. The scene was shot, but later cut from the film, as was the cute woman's death.
Yeah, I think for right reasons. But it would have been. You don't have to have these dark moments. I mean, there's a little very smidge bit if you look further into things. But on a surface level, it's a joyous film. Yeah, and it's okay to keep it like that. You don't have to have the light and dark. You can just all be light. And again, this is a parade celebrating what others may feel is the mundane. Yeah. It is really cool that so many people in this town can play the accordion. Not me personally, but I'm sure many people celebrate the mere existence of babies being pushed in prams. It's one of those. It's reiterated.
This film is the visual equivalent of It's the Little Things in Life.
Yeah, because it's reiterated later that evening when the talent show begins, and acts include two fast cattle auctioneers speed talking at each other whilst a sweaty man does lasso tricks around them, and it's kind of homoerotic.
It is a little,
yeah, it's a little. They get very close to each other, and the guy's really profusely sweating as he's doing this lasso act. Some cunty cowgirls perform with tasseled rings.
Okay, these queens.
Yes.
They do a synchronized group death drop, and it is so cunty.
So they start
all at the same time.
Yeah. They start off. A few of them are wearing long skirts that they're using to perform with, and then it changes to these tasseled cowgirls, and they just give such a country performance that really America has got talent.
Apparently. Oh my god, you know what this is like?
What?
This is like Crappy Lake.
It is. Yes,
This is
Crappy
like
Lake.
the Crappy Lake was like an adaptation of this.
Yeah, this is Crappy Lake. Celebrating the sort of rural American experience. We also get a great number of elderly couples doing some line dancing, which I enjoyed. And Ramon, as we said earlier, one of the workers from the factory, finally gets to perform Radiohead with full band. I love this version. I think this version is better than the David Byrne version. So with the talent show, actual talent show auctions were held for the film. Very much like X Factor or Pop Stars The Rivals. And some of the participants were used as extras too. So they came along to do the talent show. They weren't chosen, but they said you can be extras. Walk around in the mall. One thing we haven't mentioned, which is a big part of the film, kind of, but it's hard to find when's best to talk about it, is the fact that it features so many twins.
Yeah, there's 50 sets of twins in the film.
50 sets of twins in the film as extras mainly. There's only one time it's actually pointed out that the twins exist. And I don't. Again,
I think that's one of the ones where it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, just this is. I mean, I suppose the idea of twins feels so extraordinary to someone who isn't a twin, but to a twin, it's just that's how it is. It's kind of mundane,
Yeah.
Maybe that's why, but also maybe it's just he wanted loads of twins in there. He likes. I feel like David Byrne likes symmetry. So many images in the film are symmetrical. The buildings are centered in the middle.
Yeah.
In doing so, it's. He said himself that it kind of, he did it so it didn't look too artistic, but because of how film is, it looks deliberate and artistic, because the symmetry, the centering of things. Maybe, twins play into that as well. I feel in this scene that Byrne is celebrating these talents that maybe look down upon. Talents that are quintessentially southern or rural that get overlooked. And when they did the posters for the talent show, it specifically said we don't want any rock stars, we don't want any of the usual talents, the singers, all that sort of business. We want the quirkier talents. We want elderly people line dancing. We want cattle calling. We want that. We don't want the X Factor. We don't want Fifth Harmony turning up, because they have they have the singers, but it's Ramon and it's John Goodman, so they already had that. So the talent show continues as Mr. Tucker sings Papa Legba. So the highlight of the performance on the stage during this song is butter being spread on a large piece of corn made from balloons and being eaten by a large mouth with human heads as teeth. Now, it's hard to describe what was going on, but that's about it. So it's a recreation of something Byrne had seen on a Japanese variety show, where people were painted and made to look like different parts of this setup. So it looks great, and it's so funny and it's so quirky and silly. But the song itself, and this song was written specifically for pop staples. It's Papa Legba is an African god of crossroads, and essentially the song is about John Goodman's character, Lewis. Why do I do that? Lewis, sort of maybe being at crossroads himself, or trying to, he wants to win the talent and he wants to win the heart of a good woman and such. I like this song. I again I prefer the film version
Yes,
to David
yeah.
Byrne's version, and Talking Heads are a band that were highly influenced by African music, particularly in an album like Remain in Light, highly influenced by it. And this song is within the album. It kind of sticks out a little bit. I don't think it quite fits with the other songs on the album.
No.
But in the film, it's great. And,
Yeah.
this love potion is hopefully taking, hold. And yeah, I like it. So Lewis and his band, the Country Bachelors, of course they're called the Country Bachelors, finally perform People Like Us. And it's a huge success. In fact, it's so good that the lazy woman watching on TV gets out of her bed, calls 844 WIFE, and they end up getting married.
Yeah.
It's
in her bed.
In her bed. It's like the golden ticket. It's Uncle, is it Grandpa Joe?
Yeah.
Finally, after all this time, realised that the legs work, gets out of bed.
Well, I mean, not for her.
Well, she goes straight back.
Yeah.
I assume Grandpa Joe went straight back at the end of...
no. He continued living his life as a benefit fraud scum.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Went straight back to bed.
Well, yeah.
Got out, had his fun,
hoping
and
that
went
no one
back.
saw him and reported him.
So all the press are there for the wedding, and one of them asks, "Where's the honeymoon?" And she says, "The bear is staying with me." And I love that. It's a happy ending. It's weird. It's still weird. The fact that he's found everlasting love that he was looking for.
Yeah.
But with a woman who never gets out of bed. But the heart wants what it wants, and the potion worked its magic, or whatever it was meant to do, and he was a big success. And can we just talk about how great John Goodman can perform a song?
Yeah, it's
like
such
a
good
really heartfelt song.
Yeah.
People Like Us is a very sweet,
really makes sense to the film.
almost a little melancholy at times. He performs it so well. Surprisingly, John Goodman, and I say surprisingly, he doesn't sing. I've never known him to sing in any other film. So I was surprised to know that he could sing like this. The narrator leaves town and leaves us with one last thought when he says, "Well, I really enjoy forgetting. When I first come to a place, I notice all the little details. I notice the way the sky looks, the colour of the white paper, the way people walk, doorknobs, everything. Then I get used to the place and I don't notice those things anymore. So only by forgetting can I see the place again as it really is."
That goes with Blackpool, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I remember everything about Blackpool. Every time I smell a bit of horse shit, Blackpool keeps coming back into my memory. Just to believe.
Well, we're not being sponsored by Blackpool anytime soon.
I'm sorry, Blackpool smells like horse shit. London smells like piss. These are facts.
Well, they are facts.
These are facts.
And we get City of Dreams over the end credits.
Yeah, and
just
we
dream scenario.
We get the. Is it?
Yeah.
Is that the song?
Yeah.
Oh
is.
Wow. Yes, plays over the end credits as the young girl from the opening walks away down the road. In the making of, David Byrne says that no one had ever asked him who that girl was and why she was in the film. And to be honest, he's glad that no one's asked because he has no real answer for it. Just be nice to have this girl chirping and all of that business. And that's the end.
True stories.
True stories.
Yeah.
We tried to do it justice. Obviously, we can't play or sing the songs for you, but this, as a musical, it's fantastic. The music's amazing. I love the quirkiness. I love the wigs. I love the costumes. I love the way it looks. I think it's a very sort of artistic film.
Yeah.
At times, I love that quirkiness. It to me, it's almost if John Waters was the Pope of sweetness rather than
Yeah.
trash.
Yeah.
It's because I think John Waters absolutely celebrates the everyman
Oh yeah.
in his films, and this film absolutely does that as
Yeah.
well. It's a celebration of the people you see every day and reminds you that they are special. Actually, everybody's special.
Yeah.
Which is so, and does it in such
Apart from bigots.
yeah, absolutely.
Apart from Tories.
Well, there is a list of people who aren't special, but you understand what
Yes. It's if you want a wholesome time, this is the film for you.
Yeah, just a real, if it's something to put on to cheer yourself up, and like really, it genuinely does. And as a Talking Heads fan for oh my god, many years, it was criminal that I hadn't seen it before. What, last year?
Last year, the year before.
Like really, I'd heard that it wasn't great. True Stories wasn't necessarily on repeat for me. The album itself. So I never really got round to watching it. Also, I don't think there was really a release of it.
No, but no, Criterion
have released it. Fantastic edition. Really fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it has like the newspaper in it as well,
does.
you know.
It does.
So yeah.
So let's talk some awards. Let's talk awards.
Yeah, shall we discuss our favourite and least favourite song?
Yeah, we'll do it at the end of the awards.
Okay.
Biggest queen, for me it's Miss Rollins.
Okay. Yeah. For me it's The Lying Woman.
Yeah.
Has to be.
Biggest gasp is a synchronized group death drop during a talent show.
Nice. Mine was just John Goodman singing.
Yeah. Best dialogue, minus songs are easy. I wrote Billie Jean and half of Elvis's songs.
I went with it was love that killed John F. Kennedy. He should have never messed with me.
That's camp. I've got The Dream Operator fashion show.
Yes, I went with Swoosie Kurtz as the lazy woman. Just anytime she's in bed with a wig.
Best song for me, it's Wild Wild Life.
For me, it's also Wild Wild Life. Really love the performance. It's Wild Wild Life, but it's difficult to choose.
It is. Worst song, it's got to be Hey Now. I'm sorry, that awful version of Hey Now.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but what are you gonna do? Kids shouldn't be listening to this anyway, so no one should be offended when I say that the sound of kids singing makes me want to scratch my ears off my face.
Ratings.
If that's even the term, it's not, but
more enjoyable than listening to kids singing. Ratings, I give it 10 synchronized group death drops out of 10.
I give it 10 homoerotic cattle calls out of 10.
Masterpiece, trash, basic, or a Campo Bunch of Fern. It is a masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece.
And it's now available on Blu-ray and video on demand. And if you enjoyed this, what are you going to say first? Because I have another last minute one.
Oh, okay. I went with Nashville.
Okay, good. Because I'm going to go with The Straight Story.
Oh, nice.
It's very close in time.
Yeah, very. Absolutely. That's true, actually. Yeah, great choice. But yeah, Nashville is one of my favorite.
That was my original.
Nashville for the longest time was my favorite film ever. I'm not even going to explain it. Just watch Nashville.
We are Horror Cult Trash over on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Horror Cult Trash on Twitter. I'm Deadite Gaz92 on Letterboxd, Gazmo205 on Instagram, and GazCruise92 on Twitter.
I'm Chris Barker823 on Instagram and Letterboxd.
And if you're feeling as wholesome as everyone in this film, give us a rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, and like and follow on everything else.
Yes.
Next week, it's the one you've all been waiting for. It's Trash.
Oh.
And we're talking Mame.
We are talking Mame. Let's see how it goes.
Lucille
Ball's Mame. You know, let's give it a go. See what we've got to say.
Yeah.
I've not heard great things about it. I haven't seen it yet.
If this is good,
I am well versed on the Angela Lansbury stage show. So let's see how this goes. I've been putting it off for a while, but You'll get my reaction and Gary's reaction next week.
Yes. Back same time, same place next week.
Bye.